Focused on looking for these types of things overseas and has not been in the domestic arena, particularly when it comes to trying to protect U.S. computer systems. And the challenge that U.S. government officials have run into repeatedly is that when NSA is tracking anything on the internet, the difference in terms of what you need to do to look for potential cyber attacks and what you need to do to read somebody's email is not really all that different from a technical standpoint. And so I think that people get concerned if there aren't safeguards put in place that would prevent the government from making that move from just monitoring for bad stuff on the internet to monitoring all stuff on the internet.
What's the status of this program as far as you know?
It's really just in the beginning stages. My understanding is that the first set of funding is for what they're calling phase one, and that's probably going to be somewhere from $50 to $100 million. But then that, of course, implies that there would be subsequent phases where they would probably be truly implementing these things. Oftentimes, phase one just means kind of a designing phase to really figure out what the program is going to look like.
I have to ask you about the name, which, let's be honest, couldn't be creepier. Perfect Citizen? It just sounds like people spying on one another.
Many people raised that issue with me, and I think that is also what may have raised some people's concerns about what the true intent or perhaps what the ultimate intent of the program is.
Siobhan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Siobhan Gorman is the national intelligence correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. This is On the Media from NPR.
From Boston University, this is WBUR, Boston's NPR news station, and worldwide at WBUR.org. Coming up at 2 o'clock, Wait, Don't Tell Me. If you're looking for the latest child-friendly events around New England this weekend, go to WBUR.org, click on Arts Calendar at the bottom of the page, and then choose Kids and Family. You can add your organization's listings there, too. That's the Arts Calendar at WBUR.org.
Support for WBUR comes in part from the 750 members of the Leadership Donor Group, those who contribute at least $1,200 each year, and the 450 companies that invest in WBUR to grow their businesses and the communities they serve. To learn more about on-air corporate announcements for your business or to become part of the Leadership Donor Program with a gift of $1,200 or more, call 617-353-8451.
This is On the Media. I'm Brooke Gladstone. You might think that public documents would be, well, public. That is, accessible and for the most part free. But in fact, though many non-classified government documents and videos are technically available, they are neither free nor easy to procure. Enter the crusading Carl Malamud, who's spent the better part of the past 2 decades provoking, coercing, persuading the government to make its public workings truly public. He's currently president of public.resource.org. Carl, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Brooke.
So you actually get things done, partly because you're a crusader and all that implies, and partly because you know what you're doing. So let's start with the first part. What sent you on this quest?
It was actually very personal at first because I was writing professional reference books about networks, and it cost me tens of thousands of dollars to buy the technical specifications underlying some of these networks that were out there. And that just offended me personally, that I couldn't download these international standards and just read them.
So it began with the fact that you were being blocked, but then you ventured into whole swaths of blocked information that are supposed to be public. Everything from financial disclosures from corporations to laws.
Yeah, it was sort of an accident. I was running the first radio station on the internet in the early 90s. My flagship program was called Geek of the Week, and we were doing a demo before the United States Congress, and Congressman Markey came up and wanted to know why the Securities and Exchange Commission database called EDGAR wasn't available on the internet. And at the time, it cost $30 to buy one of these public reports that corporations filed with the SEC. And I looked at the database for the congressman and said, well, technically there's really no reason why this shouldn't be available. So I got lucky. I actually got the National Science Foundation to give me taxpayer money to buy taxpayer data to put on the internet to give away to taxpayers for free.
You put documents online in a cheap and accessible way, the SEC itself said essentially that it couldn't be done.
They didn't say it couldn't be done. They said it would cost a lot of money.
$30 million.
Yeah, it would cost $30 million, and more importantly, it would destroy our system of free enterprise because there were companies out there making a lot of money selling these documents.
So how did you convince them otherwise?
Pretty soon, 50,000 people a day were using our database, and that conclusively demonstrated that there was a demand for this. And the demand was senior citizen investment clubs, and it was journalists, and it was students, and it was people that otherwise couldn't get access to this data. And then the last obstacle was his computer people said, well, gee, we'd love to do it, but, it'll take us 2-3 years. And so we put a bunch of workstations and servers in the back of a station wagon and drove them down to the Securities and Exchange Commission and got their internet line up and running. And at that point, there were no excuses, and they were in the business.
You also did battle with C-SPAN, that few would regard as an enemy of disclosure,
Been
but it was
taking shots of
rather
gas
tight-fisted
station
with its
prices.
own little domain.
C-SPAN is a wonderful nonprofit, and they were putting congressional hearings online, and they just felt that they had copyright in all this material. And they sent a takedown notice to the Speaker of the House telling her to take down a YouTube clip of herself testifying before the Congress. And that seemed to me to be a little bit of overreaching. I sent a public letter to Brian Lamb that said, hey,